You know what used to happen to me all the time is I would start a new diet. I say, I'm gonna do this thing, and I'd be going great for a couple weeks, eating right, going to the gym, everything's great. And then I've got a trip to Indonesia. And the moment we leave for that trip, my change goes out the window. Why? Because now I'm experiencing two changes at the same time. That is, the greatest enemy to your change is change. You know, we don't realize it, but we have a limited bandwidth for dealing with change. And it's hard when one change that you're trying to make is now having to compete with another change that you're having to make. And you use up all of your emotional bandwidth on the one change, and now you have very little emotional bandwidth for the other change. So what I realized when I traveled over the summer, first of all, the cool thing was I was 2.5 months in, and so I'd already lost 30 pounds, and I had made tremendous progress already. But secondly, 2.5 months was long enough to create a new habit of things like exercise and eating right. So the new highway was already built. One of the big problems is you start a major change 5 days before you leave on a business trip. The change was not ingrained enough in your heart and mind to survive a business trip yet. But I had started my change 75 days before leaving for this trip. So I was well on my way to establishing a lifelong habit. But I knew, remember we talked about getting out of the deciding phase. I knew I had to create a new normal. I had to create a new routine for myself once we landed. And once we hit the ground, rolling with the punches meant I have to assess the situation and create a new routine immediately, or I'm going to be in trouble. And when I assessed the situation, what I realized was I cannot try to do keto here in Thailand. And if I cannot do keto here in Thailand, then I got to figure out what am I going to do. And so what I decided very quickly was I'm going to do intermittent fasting, and I'm only going to eat breakfast and dinner. And I'm going to have a relatively low carb diet. And I'm going to exercise 6 mornings a week. And so I was able to put all those things together and implement them quickly. Like the moment I arrived, the moment we hit the ground, the very next morning I was in the gym early. And then from the gym, I went to breakfast. And then from breakfast, we went to prayer. And then from prayer, we went out and had a great time during our day. And I would eat my meal at 3 o'clock. Rolling with the punches. And see, this is the key. You got to keep it in your mind and heart that you're not married to the process. You're married to your goal. You're not married to the process. If you decided to do keto, you're not married to keto. You're married to the goal, whatever your goal is. You're married to your dream. You have to learn how to use processes and programs so long as they work. Use them for your benefit until they stop working. And when you find yourself in a setting where you say, this is not going to work for me, what we tend to do is say, well, I couldn't do keto, so I guess I'll just give up. Or, you know what, I'll try again next month. I'll start again next year. I'll try again next week. You know what, I'm gonna scrap it and then start fresh on Monday. Don't do that. Don't do that. Because you get in your mind, well, you know, if I try to do keto here, it's gonna fail. Keto fails. Keto will fail. And that was a good, you know, that was right of me to recognize that. If I tried to do keto there, I would have failed. But keto is not my goal. Keto was a tool that I used to get towards my goal. And when that tool stopped serving me, when I realized this tool cannot serve me here, I simply put it down and picked up another tool. You have to recognize at these pivot points when you're experiencing change that I need a new routine that I quickly decide upon and immediately implement to sustain me through this change so that I can keep moving towards my destination without missing the mark and without falling short. And if you can do that, you're well on your way.